Welcome to Nature Art on the Floor. I'm Fern, and I have a confession. I'm a color maniac. I'm a chromatophile and a collector of hues. Let me show you. My watercolor palette is loaded. No, not one, not two, but all three of them. I admit it's a little crazy. So how do you know what colors are essential and what are convenient colors? Do you want to weigh in on this, Franz? What? Well, that's obviously a matter of opinion, and I'd say you're a little biased. Uh-huh. Yeah, there are more colors than green to consider. Let's spin the old color wheel, but first let's... No! Not today. First, let's take a look at watercolors. There are basically two options, cake or pan watercolors, and those in tubes. The ones in tubes should be squeezed, mostly, if not completely, into a palette with a lid. You don't want them drying out in the tube, or you'll need to perform watercolor surgery. I prefer to create my own palette using tubes. You can also have student grade or artist grade watercolors. The difference is in the ratio and the richness of the pigment, and in the price. Watercolors have four main ingredients: pigment, binder like gum arabic to keep the pigment mixed in, and additives to alter durability, opacity, solubility, and thickness. This would be oxgall or something like honey, and a whole slew of other chemicals that go into the paint. And lastly, water is the solvent. Pigments can be natural, coming from minerals, plants, toxins, and mummies, or they can be synthetically made. Each color has different properties, as shown by this color chart. Light fastness, will it fade and when? 1 being the best, likely to endure a century or more, and 4 being fugitive, likely to fade in 15 to 20 years. Staining, can you easily lift the color, or is it like hot sauce on your best coat? 1 is non-staining, all the way to 4, which ain't never coming out. Granulation, this is a yes or no question. The heavier pigments settle out from the paint, or it remains consistent. Transparency. Yes, all watercolors are technically transparent, but there is a scale from completely transparent to semi-transparent to opaque. Note for all you gardeners, this does not mean sun, partial sun, and shade. So this is a remarkable bit of chemistry, and we didn't always have this. Before the end of the 18th century, there were no convenient manufactured paints. You could say watercolor started with cave paintings in the Paleolithic, but it became its own unique medium in Asia by the 4th century. In Europe, it rose with the Renaissance and made leaps and bounds as artists perfected them. They had to be chemists in their own right, purchasing raw pigments from traders called colormen. Grinding, mixing, and preparing the paint was done by the artist or his or her apprentice, and the chemistry wasn't always perfect, nor the colors stable. And for a while, color mixing in medieval Europe was illegal. It was against the natural order. But today, everyone can have colors to mix and match. Oh, one of our producers is visiting. Oh, yes, sir, I was getting there. The color wheel. Right. Yes, sir. I will. Okay, let's talk colors. Know that watercolors mix differently than other kinds of paint. I always recommend making swatches of your colors, both pure and mixed. We'll start with our primary colors. Primary colors cannot be created by mixing. Red, yellow, and blue. In theory, you can mix any color from these three hues. Secondary colors are made by mixing primary colors. Red and yellow make orange, red and blue make purple, and blue and yellow make green. Tertiary colors are made from colors saying hello to their neighbors on the color wheel. Analogous colors are harmonious neighbors on the color wheel. They get along very well. Complementary colors are opposite each other on the wheel, and when mixed, you get mud. Okay, technically a neutral color. Neutrals are important as a resting place for your eyes. When painted next to each other, complementary colors set each other off in vibrancy. Warm colors are usually reds, oranges, and yellows, while colors that are considered cool are greens, blues, and purples. But it's not always that simplistic. You can have reds that are cool or greens that are warm. I made a grid to show you how many colors you can get by mixing cool and warm hues. I will show you later an example of a cool versus a warm hue, but for now, take as truth that there is no middle road. Red can lean toward orange, making it warm, or toward violet, making it cool. Experiment in mixing to see what colors you can make. Neutral colors are grays and browns, but they are not to be ignored. They allow the eyes to rest. Your palette will depend on your budget, so I've grouped some suggested colors in a prioritized list. But make your palette your own and pick the colors that you think you would really enjoy. What you don't need, white or black. They often defeat watercolor luminosity. No offense, sir. Water is your lightener. Mix your own black by mixing a bunch of your darkest colors together. Straight black can be overpowering, but a nearly black color isn't so dominating and is visually more interesting. Okay, just for fun, here are my top 5 favorite convenience colors. One of the most famous pigments in history is ultramarine. Ultramarinus in Latin means beyond the sea, because this pigment was first imported to Europe by Italian traders in the 14th and 15th century from a remote mine in Afghanistan. The English first coined ultramarine as a color name in 1598. This pigment comes from lapis lazuli, which is composed of a blue mineral, lazurite, and a form of limestone. It had to be ground, specially prepared, and purified in 50 stages to obtain only 10% usable pigment. Superior to other blues that were far less brilliant and degraded over time, ultramarine was valued more than gold. Because it was the most expensive color used by Renaissance painters, many went into debt for it, it was reserved for the holiest of holy subjects, the Virgin Mary. In 1817, the Royal College of Art in England decided to offer a prize to anyone who could produce a synthetic version of the color. They were outdone by the Société d'Encouragement, who in 1824 offered 6,000 francs as a reward. 2 chemists came forward 4 years later, within a month of each other. French chemist Jean-Baptiste Guimet claimed a successful formula in 1826 that he kept secret and unpublished. German chemist Christian Gmelin contested his own formula, which he did publish. Maybe you have guessed at who won the prize. Guimet was awarded the credit, which is why synthetic ultramarine is often called French ultramarine. It went into production in 1830. It is more stable, more brilliant, and more evenly pigmented than its natural counterpart. Best of all, it is more affordable, and everyone can paint with ultramarine without losing house and home.